So in this video, we're going to be looking at our conversion fractions. And there's a lot of different ways that different people refer to these certain fractions. It's also known as multiplying by 1. I like to sometimes say multiply by a fraction equal to 1. And they're all meaning the same thing. And what these conversion fractions are based off of are these three primary components. And remember, you can always pause the video and copy anything down. But the first one is that anything divided by itself is equal to 1. That is the foundation to this conversion fractions. It allows you to convert between things and change up any type of expression or even equation, because if you multiply anything by something that has been divided by itself, you're just multiplying basically by a fancy form or a complex form of 1. So anything divided by itself is 1. And with that, anything can be multiplied by 1 and not change its information. 3 times 1 is still 3. 4 times 1 is still 4. So you don't change its quantity, and you can multiply anything by 1. It doesn't matter. And the equations will still be equal, the fractions will still be equivalent, etc., etc. So the third component is that a conversion fraction is any fraction that equals 1. So anything can be divided by itself is 1, anything multiplied by 1 is itself, and if you put anything as a fraction where the top and bottom are the same, that's a conversion called a conversion fraction, and it equals 1. So let's look at some examples. So some examples could be, well, 3 divided by 3, x squared divided by x squared, the radical or the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3, and even the x plus 5 divided by x 5. As long as anything divided by itself, the numerator and the denominator are equal, that means each one of these is equivalent to the number 1, which means I could take any expression or equation and multiply them by any of these guys here or others, and I haven't changed its values. So let's look at some other examples of this actually being in play. So I could take the fraction 1/5, times it by the conversion fraction, so I'm converting it into tenths, and by multiplying it by a fraction equal to 1, or my conversion fraction of 2 divided by 2. You can do the same thing with x's. Multiply, this just means 1, so this is just an equivalent fraction of it. So you can even do more complex of our conversion fractions. Numerator and denominator is the same, so that means this is 1, and anything times 1 is still itself, just looks differently. So you can use FOIL method and still get your answers. So another way that you can see these is with our radicals, and this actually comes in later on with what's called rationalizing the denominator. And this is part of its core concepts, is that if I take my denominator here, I can make a fraction equal to 1, or my conversion fraction, and still multiply it through, simplify. The square root of any number squared is itself, and there we go. So even the radicals can be placed into a conversion fraction form. So a conversion fraction is basically means you're multiplying by fancy 1. All right, I hope this helped.